Hey, this is Sports Slaw with Lomas Brown, the pro.
And Deb Schneider, I'm the prof. And together, we're the pro and the prof.
Hey, Deb.
Hey, how are you today?
Good. Early morning. This is an early morning podcast that we're doing today. Kind of abbreviated with the big fella today, but we got some special guests that we'll have throughout the show. So it's going to be a great show, Deb, today.
I know it's an exciting day. It's kind of a scary day though. Major League Baseball lockout, first one since the 90s.
Ooh, I mean, I don't know how much more they can take. I think this will be their, if I'm not mistaken, this might be number 8 or 9 lockout for them. And, you know, I know the last lockout, they were really concerned with the fans coming back.
Yes.
You know, and now they're thinking from some of the analysts that I'm hearing that if they do lock out again, they may not get some of the fans back this time. They thinking that this may be kind of like the death blow or the nail in the coffin for America's sports. So they're threading on thin ice with this imminent lockout that is coming for Major League Baseball.
Lockout happened last night, the CBA. So just to catch everybody up, the CBA expired last night at 11:59 p.m. The lockout hit, so we are now in a Major League Baseball lockout, which stops everything.
So Dale, let me ask you this: why is it so contentious in baseball compared to all other sports? The NFL just signed their 10 or 11-year CBA. It looks like hockey's set right now. Basketball is set right now. Why does it seem like every couple of years baseball their CBA is coming up?
Well, I think, you know, everybody's got a fairly long-term CBA. The interesting thing, these are collective bargaining agreements. The interesting thing with sports and collective bargaining agreements is that they tend to last longer. They tend to be 7, 8, 10 years. You know, you look at some of the auto companies and some of the others that they're 2-3 year collective bargaining agreements. So we try for labor consistency. We don't want labor strife in sports, obviously, for obvious reasons. But I think when you look at what's going on here, you have a commissioner who, quite frankly, hasn't really been listening. He's been doing fairly well with the owners, but he hasn't really been listening to the players. And you have a fairly strong players union. And I would say that there has been, you know, we've talked about the CBA in football, which I'm sure we're going to get into in a minute here. But when you look at some of these CBAs, they've been negotiating this for a long time, and they've been trying to do it. The football one kind of got pushed through, as we've talked, and we've got Jehuu coming on from the Fizz coming on and talk about that also. But this one, Manfred tried to push it through, and it didn't work. It simply didn't work. And, you know, salary cap, some of the salary issues and all of that. So it's come down to this lockout. And I think you're right. We have a baseball problem in this country.
Yeah,
we do. I was shocked. I've been teaching sports law for a long time. And the kids in my class this term were saying, oh yeah, baseball's over. Yeah, we don't watch baseball. Too long, too boring, too this. I mean, of course we have attention spans of gnats, but this is a really big deal. And I don't know that they're seeing it as the big deal that it is, because the young kids aren't watching.
Well, it's kind of strange too that you see it's a few players that have gotten paid. I mean, really paid. I mean, you look at Max Scherzer, who's the oldest baseball player to get $100 million contract. I mean, you know, some of the money that they're throwing around right now is just, I mean, he's going to average $43 million a year. and so some of the money that they're throwing around, it's mind boggling,
It
so
is.
that, especially like you said, with the 11:59 deadline that hit last night. Now they're officially, a lockout. They're officially locked out. But for the owners to spend like that, the few owners that spent like that, it was just really shocking, especially ahead of the deadline, for them to spend that type of money.
Right. Absolutely. And it's important to note that this is not a player strike. This is a lockout on the part of the owners.
Okay.
But we have a guest. We've got Jehuu Caulcrick coming on. He's from the Fizz, former Michigan State player, works with Zenith Helmets, NFL safety. And Jehuu, I'd love to hear your thoughts on
Jehuu.
What's going on?
And good morning. How are you?
Yeah,
I am doing well. Doing very well. Thank you guys for having me. I love, always love coming on here and, being a part of this. So I'm looking forward to getting into this.
Yeah. Jehuu, can you just touch on a little bit of what we're talking about? It just seems like to me that we're always talking baseball when we're talking labor and labor strife and possible strikes and possible lockouts. I mean, it just seems like they're the one team that's always, in flux as far as their players and as far as the owners and them having a contract. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you guys were mentioning about longer CBA agreements and stuff. I think baseball actually has the shortest one. I think they try to go 5 years or so in between CBA agreements. That way, because there's so much money involved with baseball. Like you were just talking about Lomas with Max Scherzer contract. At the start of opening day, he's going to have the third highest contract as opposed to opening day payrolls for major league teams. It goes like there's the Pittsburgh Pirates, there's another team, and then there's Max Scherzer himself. That's talking about big money going around there. And it's such with the way that the game is transforming now with technology, I think that's why you see a lot of these lockouts popping up sooner and sooner with baseball, because these players want some of this TV money. They want some of these social media money and everything that's going around. And back in 2010, when I was playing in the NFL, I was actually part of the lockout that happened in there. And the big difference, when there's a lockout happens, you can't go to the facility. The team kicks you off their insurance. So depending on how long it is, you have to go out and shop for your own health insurance for you, your family, and everything like that, on its own. So, but I think the big difference between a football lockout and a baseball lockout is I think baseball players have more of a leg to stand on, because all through the season, their money's guaranteed, unlike football, that, Lomas. So they have more money banked up that they can say, hey, we can push this long because we have our contracts from the previous year was guaranteed. So, I think that's why, you see that more and more, because these guys have more stability financially.
Yeah. Deb, can I jump into one other thing?
Absolutely.
My thing too, and I'm changing sports right now. I want to go jump into the college sports with these coaches. I mean, my goodness, the coaching carousel. Deb, are you seeing this? I mean, Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame, signing a $90 million deal with LSU. You had the coach from Lincoln Riley leaving Oklahoma to go to USC. You got so many other vacancies that are open now where these coaches have left. So these vacancies are open. Of course, Florida just signed their guy. But the coaches jumping around. I just think, one, I'm grateful for the transfer portal for these players. The reason why I say that is because I'm glad that these players get an opportunity. If they're not happy at the program or it's not going well at the program, they get an opportunity to do like these coaches. They can move for and try to better themselves, just like these coaches. I just feel sorry for some of these kids, because a lot of these kids commit not just because of the institution. The majority of them commit because of the coach. The coach and the coaching staff that's there, that's come into their household and recruited them and told them that they would be there and told them that they would help them develop into young men. And then you turn around and they just leave these kids. And a lot of times the kids don't have a choice. But I'm just happy now that they have a choice. They have an opportunity that if they're not in the right situation, they're able to go off and find the right situation for themselves now.
Wow, there lots of things that you pointed out.
Yeah.
I got to point out, Jehuu, I've got to point out Mel Tucker from MSU. Come on.
Yes.
What is it? $95 million.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating, because that's actually donor funded to a large extent.
Yeah, that's what there's I see people talking from both sides on this. They're saying, if it's donor funded, does that mean that the program has sold out and being bought by big business, so to speak, or is it still a university type sport there? Mel Tucker was getting a lot of attention from I know that LSU job was big. They were coming after him hard, and then there were reports coming out that there were several NFL teams that were coming after him. And especially I see the NFL the way that Tucker came in instantly and made an impact with especially the transfer portal and everything, more like a free agency style. And so I think that's big, and MSU going in and locking them in, that's really good for the program. But like Lomas was saying about the transfer portal and these coaches leaving, I think that's like Lomas hit it on the head. You're doing recruiting time, you get a coach sitting in your living room talking to you, talking to your mother, talking to your father, saying, hey, we're going to take care of your kid for the next 4 or 5 years. We're going to make sure he gets his education. We're going to make sure we get the most out of him athletically, take care of his body, get him bigger, stronger, faster, help him achieve his goals. And then 2 years later, a year later, they're out, they're at a new school there, So I think there needs to be some accountabilities put on these coaches, just like the same way that there are accountabilities put on players. If you transfer, you had to sit out a year. So, I mean, I just think it's, if you're an adult telling a kid, you signed a contract, you came through on this commitment, you need to follow through on your word, on your commitment and everything like that. And then as a coach, something else happens, you can just pick up and leave with no consequences. I think that's bad for college football.
Yeah. I mean, they talked about, I'm sorry, Dale, they talked about buyout. They thought the buyout would be a deterrent to some of them leaving and some of these schools being able to hold on to these coaches. But teams, organizations, colleges, they just pay that buyout. I don't care how big it is. If they want that coach bad enough, they're going to pay for that buyout and bring that individual in. And you're right. I expect to see more of this coaching carousel just go on and on and on. But I'm glad that the kids have an opportunity too.
Right. Things have certainly changed, but we know that football brings in money. It brings in students. It's a marketing tool. So yeah, they're paying. They may not be paying advertising dollars someplace else, but they're paying big bucks for this. But I think both of you played collegiate football. How important was the coach to your decision?
Well, for me, I'll just jump in. For me, it was very important. I didn't know a lot about my coach. It was more the recruiter that came around that I got close with. The guy that was showing up at my house every day, that was talking to my parents. Yeah, the coach showed up and he was talking to them too, and he was very, very important. But I think the guy that I was seeing the most, the guy that I put my trust in, the recruiter, is the guy that I had the utmost importance with. And yeah, the University of Florida, the program was important too. but Charlie Pell, the coach that I went there to play for, he was the most important thing. He was the one that was telling my parents or translating that to my parents that he was going to help me develop into a man. He was going to help us win our SEC championship. You know, he was going to do this and that, you know, so it was what he was going to do more so than the university. The university was going to provide the opportunity and provide the vehicle towards me achieving a lot of these goals. But he was going to be the individual that was there to make sure he pushed me and kept me going in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% there, Lomas. It's really the guy that's recruiting you, the guy that's who you build that relationship with. The head coach, great. You'll talk to him a few times throughout the process. He'll come visit once, but it's that recruiting coordinator for your area. Mine was Jeff Stoutland. He was the offensive line coach at the time at Michigan State. He was the guy that, calls you, weekly, has a deep investment in you, your family, and everything like that. Those are some of the people that you go to the school for.
Okay. So do you think that with the transfer portal, name, image, likeness, I mean, let's get to the fun stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think that evens the playing field a little bit with the players versus coaches?
It doesn't even it, but it's getting it in the right direction. For the players, I think with the transfer portal, as well as the name, image, and likeness, I think that's given the players more of a voice and more of a say in their careers. Because it's the NCAA has come out, everyone's come out and said, hey, the NCAA is a business.
Right.
So that's why there's the name, image, and likeness. That's why there's the transfer portal now. So it's kind of running like a business, and the players now kind of have that entrepreneurial mindset going into college now.
What a switch, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, you are now the pro. So Jay is my guest co-host today right now. So I just want to explore the name, image, likeness thing a little bit, because I think that's just fascinating. We have so many things colliding here. We have a transfer portal, which has changed. I mean, there's a one-time waiver aspect of the transfer portal. And we're looking to get, Reggie Pearson, who was with Wisconsin, but now he's with Texas Tech, and he was able to play. He didn't have to sit out a year. And, the transfer portal, and then add on top of that name, image, likeness. I think you kind of discuss a little bit. The players are a little more entrepreneurial, a little more, I'm going to say, in control of their career.
Yeah, definitely. They definitely are. And, with that as well, it puts, great pressure and, on the player, because, the player has to go out. They have to represent themselves in, however way they want. And now they have to find, hey, maybe this company, I identify with them. I can match well with them and go from there. And, be a representative of their brand. I think it's good for the players. I hope at the end of the day, I hope the colleges, and I know for a fact that Michigan State is doing a great job of this, of being in the background, helping navigate these players through the technical side, the financial side, the side that, from the outside looking in, you don't see, taxes, how to properly, handle, getting paid from these appearances that you do, from these commercials, these spots that you do with these businesses. So that's a tricky side that players have to be aware of, but it definitely is equaling out the playing field a little bit for the athlete.
And you're a high school coach. You've been a high school coach, so you have these young men that you're helping. What advice would you give to them from the high school to going to a collegiate career? Because I know not everybody who plays for your team is going to go on to play college ball. Relatively small percentage.
Right, exactly.
But
yeah, I mean, the big thing is you tell these kids, When I was coaching, I would bring every kid in, ask them their
Mm-hmm.
goals. What do you want to achieve? What do you want to get out of this? Why are you playing football? Do you love football? Do you just want to be a kid walking down the halls wearing the jersey? Like, what is it that you want to get out of the game? And, for the many that say, hey, I want to play at the next level, it could be Division I, Division II, Division III, junior college. It doesn't matter. Then I bring them and their parents in, have a meeting with them. Hey, your kid expressed goals of playing at the next level. So this is what we're going to do. These are the steps that we have to take to move in that direction, because it's my job as a coach to help you achieve your goals. So, if I see them slacking or doing something, that's not right. Hey, you can pull up, hey, your goal is to get to this point. Do you feel that this is going to help you get to those goals? And that way it keeps, as a coach, it keeps the parents accountable, it keeps the players accountable, and it keeps you as a coach accountable. So those are what you want to do. And that's the only thing that you can do as a coach, is just, try to do what's best for these athletes, and help them achieve their goals.
Absolutely. Can you be my coach?
I'll be your life coach.
Awesome. I got a life coach. That's exactly what you need on a podcast.
That's great, because I am going to start back up. I did a lot of public speaking, and so I'm starting that back up in the new year here. That's a goal of mine. When I came to Michigan, I put that on the back burner a little bit. So I'm going to pick that back up and go into different businesses, schools, colleges, talking to different groups of people on, different aspects of goal setting, handling adversity, and how to be an effective leader.
Wow. Okay. So I'm going to do a complete 180 here. I want to talk about name, image, likeness. I want to talk, but let's talk about you a little bit. So you're going to be doing public speaking. You've now got a client you're going to be my life coach. You've been working in player safety. Tell us, how do you see all these pieces fitting together? Because quite frankly, for everybody who's listening, I find Jehuu absolutely fascinating. He is such a cool guy and does so much, and it's all good stuff.
I just feel like, we were put here for a purpose. No matter what your purpose is in life, you might not know what your purpose is till, there's not a certain age that can say, hey, this is where your purpose is. Go do it the rest of your life. You could be doing something different and something clicks one day, like, wow, this is what I want to do. And this is the path that I want to go down. So I think like my purpose here is just to help people, from if it was from coaching, helping a young athlete become what they want to do, from training, from now, working with Zenith, trying to make the game a safer game that, kids can play and participation comes up, or if it's being, going to speaking to a leadership council at a business. How do you get the most out of your employees? How do you be an effective leader? Because it's a lot easier to pull a rope than it is to push a rope. So you have to be, as a leader, have to be up there, bringing your guys with you. So those are aspects, and I think they all fit in, everything that you do in life. How do you be the best father you can be, the best mother you can be, the best at your position at work, taking pride in what you do. So I think there's a key piece that they all can fit into everyday living. Wow,
that's great. So let's talking about being a leader, and one of the things, I work in the employment business, and we always hire athletes. They understand teamwork. They're competitive. They'll work hard. They'll work with the team. It's just a wonderful hire when you can get an athlete. And I see that over and over.
Yeah. And that goes down. That goes down to athletes. Now it's being taught that, hey, you're going to be sought after no matter what you do. If you're done playing sports, you're going to be sought after in the workforce. So that's why, because you have that discipline, you have that teamwork aspect of things, you have that ability to show up on time and everything like that. So it's great. And then that's another added edge, for being an athlete going into the workforce.
Okay, so let's flip back to college athletes and really what's going on. We talked a bit about name, image, likeness. And I think one of the things that people don't understand really what it is, they think, oh, you're getting paid to play. It's a bit, it's actually a lot different than that. You as an athlete now have, as a collegiate athlete, you have the ability to control your name, image, likeness. You can sell that. And Ray had some things that Reggie Pearson Jr. had a clothing line. You can go to the local auto dealership and you can do a commercial for them. I know at Michigan State, we've got some of the players actually being paid by some of the boosters, not being paid, but given stipends for their name, image, likeness. And then they're going to, I'm sure, do some commercials or some support from that standpoint. How do you see that playing in? It's changing so rapidly. I mean, this was June 21st. And, July 1st, it was like, okay, light switch, we're done. Amateurism is over.
Right. That it is really crazy. And like I said, it's a good thing. It's empowering the players. It's why not in the summertime, if you can give back to a community and going in and running a camp and getting, and have kids come in there and profit off, because these organizations are profiting off you. So why can't you get a piece of that pie? It's, you're learning how to be, like we talked about, entrepreneur. It's Team JU. This is how we can get the most out of Team JU athletically, academically, and now financially. Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at this from a sponsorship standpoint. I see some problems with this. I mean, I think it creates a lot of opportunity, and I can talk about that, and a lot of opportunity beyond being a football or a basketball player. I mean, we know some of the best marketers are some of the women gymnasts or the men wrestlers. It's not necessarily the top sport. It also equalizes sports. But when you're talking about this name, image, likeness thing, what if your school's a Nike school and you've got an Adidas contract, as I see your Nike swoop?
I don't think you can go with, I don't think it's gone that far that you can wear products. It will, but it hasn't gone that far yet that you can wear products on the field. With this name, image, and likeness. So I think it's going to be kind of like going to that level of where the NFL is now. The NFL's a Nike organization, but you have to wear Nike jerseys, Nike pants. But if a player has a contract with Reebok, they can wear Reebok shoes. If they have a contract with Adidas, they can wear Adidas gloves and everything like that. It might go that way in the future, but I don't think it will. I think colleges will really try to put a big stop on that, because the money that comes with that, the money that these schools are paying for, these companies such as Nike, saying with Michigan, say, hey, we'll give you, $500 million if you guys wear Nike for the next 10 years, so it's an all sport thing. So that makes it a little tougher.
Yeah, this is such an interesting field to me, this sponsorship marketing, having the players have control, the coaches, we're talking about that. There's a lot of money involved here. And one of the things that I'm wondering, and I'm really interested to hear what you think about this, that we've always thought there was a pool of money, and it's a relatively limited pool of money. And we give some of it to the coaches. We give very little of it to the players. There's a television broadcast that feeds into this pool. This kind of thing. Maybe some of these sponsorships like Adidas, Nike, whatever. Do you think the pool is going to get bigger, or because now we have thousands of athletes. I mean, at any particular school, you've got hundreds of athletes who now are jumping in this pool.
I don't think the pool will get bigger at that level there, because I think now these such as let's just use let's say Cadillac of Lansing, as opposed to saying, hey, we're gonna pay for sponsorship at the stadium, at Spartan Stadium or in Jennison Fieldhouse. We're going to give that money to an athlete. We're going to give that money to a gymnast. We're going to give that money to a football player, and they can blast us. We'll get more eyes off their social media than we would, just for those 8 times someone goes into Spartan Stadium. So I think the pool is going to shrink a little bit for the schools, based on the fact that these companies can target these players individually and get more out of them in the long run, get more eyes on their product, due to the fact that these athletes have social media such as Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all these different things that they can work with, and they're going to get an instant boom hit from these players, as opposed to the traditional marketing of, hey, is my sign in the right location? Will this person see it? Will that person see it? And I think that way the pool's going to shrink, because they're going to reach out to these people individually.
Wow. That's really that's flipping traditional marketing and sponsorship on its head, isn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think,
you work for Zenith Helmets. I mean, you've got to be in on this, these thoughts.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. There's definitely, thoughts about, where do we see ourselves with Zenith within the name, image, and likeness and everything like that. It's like, we can't, we're not, as of right now, we're not going to go out there and say, hey, to an athlete, wear our helmet for so much dollars, because that clouds everything. We want people to wear our helmet for the safety aspect of things. But where we could jump in is, in our apparel line, when we're shooting a commercial for a magazine or something like that, we can bring these athletes and say, hey, wear this, Zenith sweatsuit, and, we'll pay you some money to do that, and we have the rights to use your name, image, and likeness in our in our Zenith catalog. So
you got to get some Zenith wear.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. But shout out to Zenith. 30-second commercial for Zenith. You are really, really into player safety, and you have re-engineered helmets.
Yeah,
I think that's huge in this, because a lot of we have CTE, which is a huge issue in many sports, and with football, in particular. CTE, we've got the settlement, we've got the litigation. We know it's a big issue. A lot of parents, a lot of moms are saying, I don't want my kid playing. And I think with your helmets, that helps a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, it definitely does. And you see, there's been studies that been out every year we get reports on participation for football from the youth level to high school level and everything like that. And with the technology that helmets are coming into nowadays, as not just helmets but shoulder pads and just the uniforms and everything like that, the technology that's coming into those things, it's really helping boost the participation of football. So that's exciting to see. It's exciting to see, kids gravitate to these helmets. I had a school out of Arkansas, which had a lot of head issues and stuff. 2 years ago, they switched to Zenith, and they're saying, in the last 2 years, we haven't had any head issues. Our players feel protected. Our players feel more comfortable and going out there, and they can just play the game, because that's something that we don't really look at from a standpoint of, as an athlete going out, your job is to perform. Your job is not to worry about, man, if I take this hit, is it gonna, end my career? If is my head protected by this helmet? Is my shoulder protected by these shoulder pads? That's not your job as an athlete. Your job as an athlete is to go out there and perform to the highest of your ability. And if you can take that thinking out of it about, are you safe? And you just perform, you're going to get the highest performance out of an athlete.
It is fascinating to see. One of the things that I never really thought I'd see that much is the fact that technology is really changing the game of football. You know, we think about technology changing, auto racing. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, you got a faster car. We think about it in golf. You've got a better club. You've got a better ball. A football's a football. I mean, I think you've been playing with the same ball since, since Jim Brown. You know, same with the basketball and the hoops at a particular height. But we're really talking now about the helmet and this kind of technology, which makes a huge, huge difference, as you're saying, both psychologically and physically.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely does. You know, it's, you know, like I hinted to before, the game. Wow, the game it's
too early for this stuff.
I know. It's never too early for football.
No, we love football.
Yeah, you know, the way that the game's going, it's bigger, stronger, faster. It's technology based. Even with the way an athlete trains, it's not about how much weight that you can pick up and put down. Now it's about, let's do some functional movement. Let's work quick twitch muscles. Let's work, let's do static training. Let's do, you know, all these different types of training. That's how the game is changing, because athletes are becoming more of freak athletes. They're becoming able to make crazy plays, the one-handed catches and everything. And as an equipment provider, you look into that and say, wow, how can I, you know, create a shoulder pad that a wide receiver can put his arm all the way up in the air and make that spectacular catch that you see on Friday nights, on Saturdays, and on Sundays, without impeding without impacting the protection of the player, but give them that wide range in motion. So, okay, let's use carbon fiber. Let's use molded injected padding that forms to the athlete's body, so that way they're one within the equipment. So those are things that we sit back and look at and want to, you know, transform into that. How can we make the lightest shoulder pad, but yet the safest shoulder pad? You know, the days of the bulky shoulder pads and everything, those are behind us. Now people want small, slim, and light. So that's the fun part about, you know, being in this side of things. It's like, how can you create something that's innovative, that has great technology, but yet it goes on the field and keeps the game pure and the same.
Okay, I'm going to say I had no idea we were going to be talking about equipment and this kind of thing. But, I love getting on these rolls, because, like, we're talking now about fundamental changes to the game, both through a training standpoint as well as an equipment and a technology standpoint.
And there's also another, I hate to cut you off there, but you said those fundamental standpoints, the training standpoint, the technology standpoint, and now for the athlete, what you're seeing a lot more is there's that psychological standpoint, where now athletes are going and talking to sports psychologists, you know, saying, hey, how can I find that flow, you know, that point in the game where everything seems to be a blur around you and you get into that tunnel vision,
the zone.
That's that high that an athlete looks for every time. And you don't get it all through, you know, every game. There's going to be moments that you get it, but that's something that you're always chasing. So that's another piece of technology, you know, using a sleep light, you know, using, you know, different things like that. So that's just how the game's changing.
Yeah, it was really interesting when we were talking with Jason Chung, who's big in esports, and he was saying the athletes are known, you know, they're young kids and everybody's thinking they're eating Doritos. They're not. They're training. They have psychologists. They're working real hard on fast twitch muscles. They're eating correctly. They're actually physically training to play esports. And that seems to be throughout, that we have a different type of athlete than certainly when I was participating, and probably when you were participating And
Oh, yeah.
definitely when Lomas was participating.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely is. I think Ray wants to jump in here.
Yep.
All right. Well, back when I was also in football, back in the,
The day.
well, yeah. Well, it's like there is like certain high schools that can afford the new gear. And then there is those small schools that are like class C, class D. Is there a like with getting the right gear for these kids now? Like back in our day, we had, oh my god, the bike helmet, Rydell.
I thought you played in the day of the leather helmet. Sorry.
You know, I can always put you backstage. But it's like back then, like back in the 70s, and when I was in high school and college, the gear was it was the same since the 60s almost.
Right.
And like it was bulky. But they had to make it last for 4 or 5 years. And like and the rule was in high school wasn't that you had to get new helmets every 4 or 5 years. And in a lot of these schools can't afford that. Is there a certain kind of program that's out there that has that?
Yeah. That's a great question. Great point. Because I hold small schools near and dear to me because I graduated from a small school with 26 kids in my graduating class in high school. So
362.
So there is the really cool thing is that you mentioned, Ray, is that bulkiness of the helmets didn't change. Now with the technology in helmets, now we have things in our helmets that change to based on the weather. If it's too hot, there's cooling units that's going to help you cool your heads. If it turns cold, it's help keeps in heat and everything like that. And with Zenith, like we don't want to sacrifice a player just because you go to a small school or your school can't afford the top tier technology. We don't want to say you can't get this because all the helmets that we have with Zenith are 5-star Virginia Tech rated helmets. That's the highest that you can be in Virginia Tech, and the NFL helmet rate in there. I think we're in the top 10 there for everything, actually top 5 for everything. And in the youth helmet, we're the #1 youth helmet on the market right now. But there are different programs that's set in place for schools. The entire lifespan of a helmet now is 10 years.
10 years?
Wow.
Yeah, a helmet can last for 10 years if taken care of properly. We suggest every other year you get your helmet reconditioned, recertified, and everything like that. Make sure you get that Noxie sticker put on there.
Yeah, because a lot of these high schools are painting their own helmets, and once you do that, the warranty's gone.
Once you paint your helmet, the warranty's gone. And a lot of these, if you paint it yourself as a coach, you're really putting yourself in a position to be for lawsuits, and God forbid something happens to an athlete, because when you're putting spray paint or you're painting those helmets, it's eating at the chemicals in those polycarbon helmets and everything like that. So that's why it has to be manufacturer painted. And so if there's any small schools out there trying to cut costs and stuff like that, I beg you, do not paint your own helmets, because in the long run, if something happens, you're just going to cost yourself a lot more money due to liability issues and warranty issues and everything like that.
And that happens a lot. It's unseen. It's an unseen thing, and people do it all the time. I saw it in semi-pro. I see guys on the sidelines spray painting their helmet because they just got picked up. I'm like going, and then but why I bring it up with the small schools, I mean, a lot of those are underfunded. Teachers are buying their own books. Coaches are buying their own equipment for the kids, jerseys, shoulder pads, and even the shoulder pads. Like the older stuff, you got to get that stuff out. and like not using it anymore because you're sweating on it, they're getting washed, and a lot of the times these high schools are not doing it right.
Right, that's true, and we see that at Zenith, and that's why we're the only equipment company that offer this. We have what we call the stack program. So for a small school, if you have, let's just say, for your junior high, your JV and your varsity, you have 50 athletes or so, we give you the opportunity to get these helmets. We call it on a stack program. You have 5 years to pay it off. So each year, if it's $3,000 a year, that you pay that each year for 5 years. At the end of those 5 years, the helmets are yours to own, and you still have another 5 years worth of life on those. And included in that is reconditioning those helmets every single year, taking care of those helmets. So that's, those are different ways that we see, football can be an expensive sport. We want to try to alleviate that, because at the end of the day, at Zenith, we're just all athletes at heart, athletes that want to continue to keep the game moving forward in the right direction.
So what schools in our area are doing that stack program?
In the area with the stack program, I am not 100% with the stack program, but I know the entire Detroit, the PAL leagues, the Detroit public school, they're all Zenith helmets. The PAL leagues for the youth football, they're all Zenith helmets. MLK King, who just won a state title. It was good to see, because I watched the games there, and it was good to see every kid out there wearing a Zenith helmet and winning a state title. So that was really cool to see.
That whole discussion about the helmets and the warranties and these programs, I mean, that's phenomenal. It really, really is phenomenal, because we know we have a problem with public education. Mm-hmm. And funding of public education, for whatever we want to say. I mean, the teachers, my daughter's a teacher, she's buying Kleenex for her classroom.
Right.
Which is ridiculous. And, she's also a head coach, and they're doing hand-me-down uniforms, always have been. And, the costs. And then we ask the kids, we have a pay to play for the kids.
Right.
Coming in. So...
Yeah, and that's one thing too. You don't want to, because at the end of the day, in high school level, these are all kids.
Yes.
Playing, no matter what sport, if it's bowling, if it's tennis, football, basketball. As a coach, when I coach, I realize Friday nights you'll get the most fans and everything like that to a game. That's why I will get with other coaches and say, hey, give me your 5 biggest games. I'll make sure I work around practices so I get all my guys to come out and support you guys there. And because these kids, there shouldn't be well, football takes all the money, and we can't get equipment and everything like that. There shouldn't be that. It should be an equal playing field for all these kids who have an enjoyable experience playing sports in high school. Absolutely.
And these kids, it's not just the football. It's these kids work hard. And one of the things I do want to say from a participation standpoint, if you're an athlete, as we're talking at, final thoughts, because we're running out of time here, from an athlete perspective, and Jehuu, I'd love to talk to you about Title IX and, yeah, and participation and, seasons and scholarships and all that stuff. But when we start talking about it, it's really about participation at the high school level.
Oh yeah, definitely. It definitely is.
Yeah. Getting these kids. So, and I do want to say, as we wrap up here, I want to mention the Oxford school shooting, Tate Myers, who football player, the other kids who were killed and those who are still in the hospital, and, moment of silence and thoughts and prayers. And gosh, I wish we weren't dealing with this any longer. School shootings are awful.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely something that's really sad to see. And the big thing is you see these things, and now it's right in our backyard.
Yeah.
that's the toughest thing. The toughest part about it is, our hearts go out to all the family impacted by this, all the kids, that's going to have this, trauma with them the rest of their lives going forward. And, you said it, Deb, your daughter's a teacher. Going to school should be the safest place for a kid,
She was on lockdown yesterday, and they're not in school today because of unspecified threats.
Yeah. So that's something that, needs to be addressed, but, like you said, Deb, you put it best. Hearts go out to all those families, hearts go out to the schools, the administration, everyone that's involved with that.
Right. And let's pray that it doesn't happen again, that
Right.
we figure out a way to fix this.
Yep.
So with that, thank you so much, Jehuu, for being on. Can't wait to guest host with you again.
Oh yeah, definitely. I feel like I'm sneaking to the big times.
You're part of the family.
Every time I get the call, I'm ready. I'm ready. Let me know when's next. I love coming on here. Love chatting with you guys, and excited. Thank you guys so much.
And definitely shout out to the Fizz, which is your podcast.
Yes.
Love to, help out on that anytime we can too. And
Definitely.
We'll go back and forth. So again, thank you for joining us, everybody, and check us out on SoundCloud and on Spotify and on sportslaw.com. And have a good day.